Factorio, the greatest factory game, with so many layers of complexity for being a 2D game. Today, I'm going to go to Vulcanus in the Space Age DLC. I'm also accompanied by a friend for the early portions of it as well. So, here we begin at the crash landing like every Factorio run does. To start, we get some coal, iron, copper setup, and shortly after get some research going. Now, with basic resources, we begin our expansion. We will need to automate these resources with stacks of furnaces to turn them into plates, then make signs with said plates. Sounds easy, doesn't it? We get the new stack set up, which before you have proper automation, getting the inserters for is a pain, and with some movie magic, it's complete. I get some supplies, so belts and underground belts, and this will help us for the rest of the run. Then I get a copper stack set up along with some of the circuits needed. We finish setting up the mall, and then finish the copper stack. Now, before the early game flies by, let's talk about the sciences. The first three sciences before the game really starts are automation, logistics, and military. They're easy to automate and unlocks the mid-game of normal Factorio. But let me explain how they are made. The first science is automation science, which I'm making here. It is made from an iron gear and a copper plate, so it's really easy, but it's also the first science. The next science is logistics science. It takes an inserter and a boat. I have both of these automated, but I don't want my supply to interfere with my science per minute, or SPM. The inserter takes an iron gear, iron plate, and a circuit, while the belt is an iron gear and a plate. So you can already see how this game is getting complicated. As I connect logistics science, or green science, to the labs, let's talk about the tech tree. It's rather big, and there are, in Space Age, 12 science packs, each one ramping up in complexity. As you see here, it's big, and so this run is going to take around 100 hours in length. Now, with the early game dealt with, I decide, well, this base kinda sucks. What if I make a new base instead? Also, I need oil for chemical science, so I kinda need to expand anyway, so that means a rail network. But to get there, we need to remove the biters, so that's what I do. Once the biters are cleared out, I get the oil field filled with pump jacks and get them wired to the base. Oh, and I also make military science. The next thing is adding a rail that will provide materials for the new base, as well as oil for the upcoming chemical science. The first step of chemical science is petroleum. So we use our refineries to turn crude oil into petroleum gas, and then that into plastic and sulfur. For the next step of the expansion, we set up miners and a wall to defend from biters from our eastern base. Then, for the first products of the new base, is iron. Then copper, The first things we will make with these are circuits, which will then unlock advanced circuits and then chemical science. While building them, me and my associate got a little silly with the fire. Then I finished building the circuit build. Now on to advanced circuits, or red circuits. I know we as Factorio players name things off of colors a ton, but okay. Anyway, let's get on to the first complex product, which is advanced circuits. It takes a copper wire, circuits, and plastic. This here is half the reason why we need oil right now. After expanding steam production for power, I started chemical science, which takes sulfur, advanced circuits, and engine units, which I automated in the old base. It's really not that bad to make, but it will be the stepping stone we need to get to our first destination in space, Vulcanus. I moved the labs near chemical science, and there we go, new research. Now the next step to our goals of space is, of course, new materials. More iron, steel, copper, of course. Oh, and our newly unlocked processing units. Blue circuits, just say blue circuits. For the next big thing is advanced oil processing. It makes refineries output heavy oil, light oil, and petroleum gas, all products that we need for the rocket launch, but it is really complicated. If one of the products gets too full, we can crack it into the lighter oil below it, so heavy fuel to light oil and light oil to petroleum gas. So we need some circuit conditions, and it just becomes a jumble of stuff, but at the end here it just works. Time to make rocket fuel, the second material needed for the rocket. It's simple, just an oil to make solid fuel, and then light oil. With that finished, I make a little sulfuric acid build, which takes water, sulfur, and iron. And I connect it to the blue circuits build because it requires sulfuric acid. Final item required for the rocket is low density structure, or LDS for short. It takes a boatload of coppers and steel and a reasonable amount of iron and plastic. But to make the rocket silo takes a couple of things that we don't have, such as electric engines or concrete, which are both useful things on their own, so I automated those so we can make the silo. To start with electric engines, they are used in many buildings in the future and also the gateway to construction and logistic box, which can construct and move items. They require green circuits and engine units. To make the boss, I make flying robot frames, which take the engines, circuits, steel, and finally batteries, which takes sulfuric acid, iron, and copper. Yeah. And it's also used in utility science or yellow science. Yeah, this is how hard the game was when you're still in the early game. Now, the concrete is simple. Just stone bricks, iron ore, and water. We now have everything to make a silo, and the rockets. I handcraft the rocket, and in the next play session, place it. I route the rocket fuel and LDS to the rocket, then the blue circuits. Now, the next science is easy, space science, and yes, it's just called that. Space platform automation needs these grabbers to get asteroid chunks. We then crush that asteroids into carbon, ice, and iron ore. Then we also smelt the iron and craft the science and send it down to Navis. For the next 10 to 20 hours, I finish making the base before I get a spaceship and travel to Vulcanus. I guess expanding red circuit production as well? I don't know, it's just procrastination. I have everything I need to go. I start the solar grid so I don't need dirty coal power. I spend an hour or two making a wall. That was just laborious. I made the rest of the Navi sciences, so yellow and purple. I just made them with logistics robots. I make a bunch of supply automation, otherwise known as a mall. Okay, no more delaying. Let me explain the ship that I made. We start with the grabbers. Oh, apparently they're called asteroid collectors. Anyway, the ship has 10 of them. We put them into the main sushi belt, which means that there's just a bunch of random items on belts in a controlled manner. We grab the asteroids, put them into the space platform where they get crushed. Metallic asteroids make iron, carbonic makes carbon, and oxide makes ice, all of which have a 20% chance of outputting the same asteroid. To actually move the ship, we need a thruster and thruster fuel and oxidizer. This fuel takes carbon and water, and the oxidizer is made from iron and water. We make the water by melting ice in a chemical plant. To protect the ship, we make the basic ammo from iron plates, which we make an electric furnace, and then put them onto a circular belt which can hold 2.2 thousand ammo. Those go into gun turrets to protect the ship, and now I have a ship that can finally fly. By the way, don't copy the ship, it's bad. I have a new, much better ship for the next video, and that will not come out soon. I board a rocket to get to the ship. Then fly to Vulcanus. And descend to the planet's surface. The first thing I do is stamp down a solar blueprint, get sulfuric acid, and then more acid, then mine calcite. The enemy on Vulcanus is big worms. So, how do I deal with them? Nuclear reactors. Let's just say that this is an editing choice and that this base didn't just appear here and I didn't lose a bunch of early footage. So, with the demolisher cleared, I go and set up a tungsten mine on Vulcanus. But the reason why I'm here is to get, of course, science. And metallurgical science is the next science. So I spend a couple of play sessions making a base on Vulcanus that can make a good amount of science. There's the science made, but now we need the rocket. 2/3 done. Now, we leave. Thank you for watching. I spent a long time working on this video, so many revisions, but thank you. Go sub to me. I will post maybe in a month or 4 months. The next Factorio video will likely be in the next year. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye.